I'm Laura from Garden Sanity, and these pretty blue flowers you see next to me and behind me are part of a new garden bed that was originally built as a raised garden bed for vegetables years ago. I call it the long bed, and you'll see why in a minute. It's long. But before we get to the tour, I'd like to give you just a little bit of background. Let's get started. My husband built this bed about 9 years ago. Basically, 3 layers of paver stone plus landscape fabric tucked against just the inside of those pavers to prevent dirt from escaping out the sides of the bed. After growing vegetables for a few years, life got in the way, so I stuck some plants in there and I edged it in marigolds that year. Eventually, the bed turned into a holding bed of sorts, like a mini nursery bed for plants we just weren't sure what to do with. For example, we housed a sage plant that was formerly in a large pot that broke from the freezing weather one year. Eventually, this bed became a mess, and the weeds were out of control, partly because I began not seeing this bed. I'd just sort of ignore it. So during the winter, my husband and I decided this would finally be the year that we did something with this bed. So we said, should we take it apart? And then we decided, no, that's too much work. Let's simply turn it into a new garden bed, which we did, complete with an ornamental tree, evergreens, deciduous shrubs, and lots of flowers, color, and texture. Let's take the tour. So this first plant, and it's actually 2 plants, they're called true blue butterfly bushes. And some say these are the bluest of the butterfly bushes. They are stunning. So I saw this in a wholesale nursery grower's catalog, which just happened to be a company that our local nursery dealt with. And I begged our local nursery, can you please order this for me? And they did, and I am thrilled. So what you'll also see as you have your butterfly bushes is you'll see some that are, already dried. These can be simply snipped off. Just go down to where you see another set of stems. In this case, I would go down all the way to here and just snip it off. It's no big deal. More will grow back. And what's nice is these produce flowers all summer long. For example, here's a new one just starting. This is my first year growing these, and I already am thrilled with how well they're doing. They are just beautiful. If you look super close, let's see if we can get in so I can just show you. Each one has like a little orange-yellow center. You see that? How pretty is that? And the smell is really good. I can't quite describe it. Maybe it's sort of a honey scent. I'm bad with describing smells. Just trust me, it smells wonderful. And as if on cue, pollinators love it. As I'm filming this, not only do I see this bee, I see some flies. I see some, I don't know, I guess they would be more like moths. And right before I started filming, of course, that I couldn't get it, there was a monarch butterfly, so I'm thrilled. And here's what it looks like from a distance. Next is this adorable evergreen. And it's adorable now, but it's eventually going to get a lot taller. This is called a Boulevard Cypress. I'll put the complete fancy name on the screen for you. It's an evergreen. It's got beautiful silvery blue foliage. Isn't that stunning? It's going to get at least 5 feet tall, but what's nice is it's going to have a narrow width, so I thought this would fit in nicely here. So it'll eventually be taller than the butterfly bushes. In the meantime, you can't see it right now from the front of the bed, but I know it's back here. It's obviously happy back here. And what I also like is it's got a similar color to the blue-green leaves of the butterfly bush. So yes, I did that on purpose. It's a slow-growing evergreen, so it's not like it's going to get 5 feet tall in a year. It'll take a while. What's also nice about the Boulevard Cypress, I saw this at 2 different nurseries and also at Home Depot. So I think it's becoming a more popular evergreen shrub. So if you're looking for something that eventually is going to have some height but fit in to an existing garden bed, in a smaller space, I think this is a great evergreen shrub to consider. So curving back around to the front of the bed, now I can show you the King's Gold Mop Cypress. So this plant has an interesting history because it used to be planted in a too wet area. And I'm going to show you, just curving around, you've probably seen these in quite a few videos already. It's a project that we kind of abandoned just because we try to do this on weekends, and the past few weekends have not cooperated with us. But this area right here is a too wet bed, and I'm replacing what there was nothing here. It's a long story and it'll be a future video, but I'm slowly filling it with shrubs that are wet loving shrubs, and that definitely is another video. But we had the gold mop cypress in there, and that just was not working. The gold mop was just not able to handle how much wet there was. So the problem was, it sat here and it just sat here and it just sat here. When we finally decided, okay, we're going to do something with this bed, and this was already here, we said, you know what, let's leave the shrubs that are already here, and there's a few more I'll show you at the other end, and we'll plant around them. And so I am happy that that's what we decided. Again, easy choice. And it's a nice contrast with the butterfly bush, and it'll be a nice contrast as well when that plant back there, that you can sort of see, the Boulevard cypress, grows really tall. So before I get to this section down here, I'm going to show you this beautiful ornamental tree we planted. This is a Prairifire crabapple tree, and it has quickly become a favorite, even though we only planted it this season. Now, it's middle of the summer, so you aren't getting too much new growth. But what happens is, and you can sort of see it on this leaf, the new growth comes out burgundy, and then it changes to green. So you have these beautiful burgundy stems, and then you have burgundy leaves. Oh, it's just so pretty. So even in the summer when it's not flowering, look how pretty this foliage is. Here you can see a few more sort of burgundy leaves. But again, because it's, oh my God, it's super high heat and humidity these days. I mean, the humidity right now is, I think it's about 400% right now this morning. I think the temperature is about 155. Yes, I'm joking, but I don't feel like I am. Anyway, I have a couple of pictures I can put here to show you what the blossoms look like, but I don't have too much just yet because, again, this is the first season we planted it. And then in the wintertime, what happens with this is it gets berries, and a lot of people think, oh, crab apples, what a mess. According to several gardeners who have Prairifire crab apples, which is a hard combo to say, the berries stay on the tree. They don't fall off. And what happens in the wintertime is the birds eat them. Now my thought is, even if they fall off, they're going to land in the bed. So I'm fine with that. And I think that was a selling point for my husband too. It's not going to be any messy cleanup on all the gravel stones. What I have down here at the bottom, this is just a plastic protector for the base of the tree, just in case any rabbits decide to hop up in here. Rabbits apparently like to gnaw on crab apples, red buds, so it's good to know that. I will probably add a second one for the winter time just to be on the safe side. And I'll do another video where you can see exactly what these are like, because I'll put a link below where you can purchase them, but they're also really great because they're adjustable. So now to discuss this section down here. Here is a new light we just planted. That's the solar part of it. And over here is the actual spotlight. And this works really great. We got it at Home Depot. I think it's called Hampton Bay. I will put a link and information below. We love it. It works really nicely. We hid the wires underneath so you don't even see those, which is great. So this plant here is a Lavender Phenomenal. Now, I just did a video, I'll put a link above, on Lavender Phenomenal, and you can see it in full bloom in our front yard. And because it did so great up there, I decided let's add some back here. So this is what they look like when you first get them and plant them. They're just pretty evergray, as they're called, like a blue-gray. These are evergreen plants. And so that, again, will provide some nice winter interest. This is annual Portulaca, which I did not plant. When we put new soil in this bed and updated it, it just started sprouting. So I don't know if it was in the soil. We used to plant Portulaca years and years and years ago. And the chipmunks and rabbits had a field day with it. I don't know why nobody's touching it, but it's getting ready to bloom, and I think it'll look beautiful, and I decided I'm just keeping it here. Here are 1, 2 with a weed sticking out of it, 3 with a few more weeds sticking out of them. These are Kramer's Red Winter Heaths, and I have some video of when I first planted them. Do you see how brown they were? These were in the front garden bed, and when I transplanted some Geum up there, which again, there's another link above to watch the Geum transplanting video. I cover everything. I planted these back here because they weren't doing great up there, but they just were so brown and looked awful, didn't they? I mean, just from what you see. There's a couple little brown things right there. I can clip those off, but they're green, and I think they're happier back here. I think the reason is they're getting more sun. So there you go. That's what those 3 are. And again, evergreen. So next to the Kramer's Red Winter Heath is Geum. And you can see my video that I just linked above before that'll show you exactly how I divided this up. It was in our holding bed, in this bed. And where it was down where the butterfly bushes are. And it was one gigundo plant that I'd had sitting there for a long time. Again, not sure what to do with it. And so I divided it, and these are 2 different plants from that main giant plant. And they are still blooming. As long as you deadhead them, new things crop up. Even the seed heads look pretty though, don't they? But that's what this is. That's Geum. And then next to the Geum is some Verbena Bonariensis. And I have covered that in other videos. All of the verbena that I have of this species was all grown from an original plant we had. So that's what's really great to me. These seedlings pop up, and you can either just pull them out easily, or you can let them grow. So I added some back here just for some height and color. And then in the front here are some unnamed ornamental onions. And the sad part about these is they're supposed to be resistant to rabbits, but do you see right there? So the rabbits bit the flowers off. That makes absolutely no sense to me. None. I still plan on planting more because, I don't know, I'm a glutton for punishment. But that's this section of perennials. So I'll step back so you can see this section. In the background you do see some annuals on the garden bench and in some planters, and that'll be another video. I'll just show you a cute little project I did there. So behind the Geum and the Verbena are 2 golden Euonymus plants, shrubs. Golden Euonymi. I don't know how you say the plural. So this is golden Euonymus. So we bought these as 2 tiny little plants years ago on an impulse purchase because we thought they were so cute and we had no idea where to plant them. And so we put them in this bed. And that was years ago. They're still here. They finally started filling out, looking nice, and we said again, we'll just leave them here along with the gold mop cypress down there at the other end. We decided to just leave them here, and they provide some evergreen interest, nice color variation to the other plants. So that's what these are. The moral of this little section here is never buy plants on impulse. Seriously, not everybody can instantly find a place to put them, you know, making up a holding bed. It was just kind of silly. So, as my husband always asks me when we're at the nursery and I say, ooh, I want this plant, his first question, where's it going? And if I can't answer that, I don't buy it. As hard as it can be sometimes, that's what I do. So then curving around to this end of the bed, the other end, are 2 more Lavender Phenomenals. And so again, that's what they look like. Real pretty. And check out the video I linked to earlier. I will also link to it below in the description box so you can see fully what these are going to look like once they're in full bloom and a little bit taller. The final plant that I am super excited about is this Firelight Hydrangea. Now, this little guy doesn't look like much now, but he is eventually going to get 8 feet tall. Very similar growth rate to the Pinky Winky hydrangeas I have in the front yard. And got this planted in here, so I'm not expecting much from it this year, and that's okay. But eventually, it's going to have creamy white blooms that are going to age to a vivid, vivid red. Well, I think they say one vivid red. I added vivid. I'm very excited about it. Another fun thing is not only will the Firelight Hydrangea have similar bloom color of the vivid red that the little quickfire hydrangeas have in this other bed, but it supposedly has the same bloom time. So if we walk over here, and you can see how pretty the blooms are already as the limelight is just starting. That's going to be a nice effect. And yes, since I did the video on this particular bed, again, there's a link above, I planted, here's what I decided to do. This is a quick little aside. We had space here. I added another little quickfire. And then we have the ones we originally planted, this one and this one that we planted a couple, like maybe about a month ago. And then I added another one here. So I kind of changed my mind and decided maybe it'd be nice to have a nice hedge of these. So that's a little aside. And in the back of this hydrangea tree, look at this, we already have the blooms. In the front, not so much. I guess it just depends how the sun hits it. Normally, this is going to be a much earlier bloom than the limelight hydrangea tree. So it's not like that right now because it's just so new. So I don't even know if I'll get flowers this year, we'll see. But it looks healthy, really happy about it. So what you don't see yet in this flower bed are any annuals. And that's because when starting a new garden bed, it's a great idea to start with foundation plants first, and that would be your ornamental trees and shrubs. You want a mix of evergreen and deciduous, and if they're deciduous, do they have any winter interest? Like the crabapple tree has berries that'll persist into the winter, and the dried flowers on the Firelight Hydrangea will also provide some winter interest. So you'll get a nice mix of winter interest not only from the evergreens, but from some of the deciduous shrubs as well. It's also a great idea to mix up both evergreen and deciduous shrubs to keep it interesting. For example, when these butterfly bushes are all dormant in the wintertime, that's when this Boulevard Cypress is going to take center stage, as well as the gold mop cypress. Your eye will be drawn to these evergreens, and this guy can just take a nice sleepy rest for the winter. And after you've put in your shrubs and ornamental tree or trees, next come the perennials, and that's where I put in the Geum, the Verbena, the lavender, and that's what I put in for now. I'm going to let everything settle in first before I add more things. However, I already know that in this section here I want to add some hellebores around the base of this crabapple. The hellebores will repel the rabbits from even thinking about gnawing at the bark. They also have gorgeous blooms in the early spring. I don't even know which variety I want to plant yet. There are so many to choose from, but I know that I'm going to plant them around this tree. What I am very conscious of doing in this bed is planting rabbit-resistant plants. They don't touch the Geum, they don't touch the Verbena, they don't touch the lavender, they don't touch the Kramer's red winter heath. They're going to devour maybe the Portulaca, and they don't touch the butterfly bush. The other thing that I did was we put down, with my husband's help, put down this type of bark. Let me just show you this. I wasn't a fan of it originally. I was like, what is this? We usually don't put bark chips down, but that's kind of what we bought. We bought it by accident because we couldn't really see through the bag of what it looked like. And I was like, oh, I don't really like these chips. Do you know what the advantage is? We've watched. The rabbits don't like digging them. You know, the regular other kind of mulch, we usually put playground mulch down. They dig through that all the time. But they have not dug through any of this. I come out here and check all the time. Sometimes I see the rabbits considering it, and they don't touch it. So, little tip there, it may work for you too. I'm so happy with the way this garden bed turned out. And once I see how everything does, then I'm going to consider what more to add, whether it's annuals or perennials. And in the fall, of course, I am going to be planting a ton more bulbs, lots of daffodils. So if you grow any of these plants already, let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear how you like them. I hope you enjoyed this garden tour, and until next time, happy gardening.